attend the class. They were at the masjid just waiting for somebody, or they didn't want to attend the class, but they stayed with the people. So the angel says, like, he was not there for reading Quran or attending the class. فيقول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول تعالى فبه فابدأوا يعني هو يدخل الجنة أولهم فهم القوم لا يشقى بهم جليسهم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will order the angels to take him first, and he says, those people who are worshipping me, whoever is with them will be with them. لا يشقى بهم جليسهم, like whoever sits with them will be among them in the Jannah. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to gather all of us in the Jannah, inshallah. When we talk about the fiqh of Ramadan, there are, as I mentioned, the main two things about Ramadan, the pillars. But before we talk about pillars, how many types of fard or obligatory fasting? How many you think? When we think about obligatory fasting, always we think about Ramadan. Is there anything that is fard or obligatory to fast as well? There are other types. So when we talk about fard, we need to remember that it's not just only Ramadan. Any kafara, sometimes when you do something in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you need to do fasting. Or one of the elements is fasting. So the kafara is actually obligatory. Whenever somebody did something, like for example the hilfan, when somebody says like about something in the future, not in the past. If somebody swear to God upon something in the past and he was intentionally saying something as a lie, there is no kafara for that. That means that the Rasul says whoever swear about something in the past and he was actually lying, the only punishment is to go to the hellfire. But we're talking about the future. If somebody says, I swear when I am meeting this person, I'm not gonna say salam to him at all in all my life. And then after 3 days, he called down and he says like, this is haram. You cannot do that. So what should I do? Now you have to do kafara. And the kafara is either you pay money to feed 10 people. So first, you pay money to feed 10 people or to get them clothes, as the Quran says, and to free a slave. There is no slaves now. So the next one is to do fasting. So fasting here will be obligatory if somebody don't have the ability to feed people or give them clothes. So that means that the next thing is to fast. The fasting in that time is obligatory. There is another third type of obligatory fasting. ما هو الفرض الثالث في الصيام؟ صيام رمضان، صيام الكفارات، صيام النذور. When somebody, nadhr means that you say, if something happens, I will obligate myself to fast this day, or I will obligate myself to fast 3 days or 4 days or whatever. So this is that a person obligates upon themselves to fast. If they name it, like for example, if I get this thing, whatever, or I get married, or I get my degree, or whatever, I will fast the next Thursday of that. So it's obligatory for them to fast that day. But if they make it open and say like, I will fast 3 days, so they need to fast at least 3 days. And if somebody is swear to God that he's gonna fast, for example, something is haram, they have to avoid that day. So we have certain days in the year you cannot fast. It's haram to fast. You know the days of Eidain? So these 2 days you cannot fast. It's haram if you fast. And the 3 days after the Eid al-Adha. So not the Eid al-Fitr in Ramadan, the Eid al-Adha. ثلاثة أيام التشريق. So these are the days that it's prohibited to fast. So if somebody make nadhr that he will or she will fast one of these days, it's haram. They have to avoid that and they do another day. So these are the 3 types of obligatory fasting. So the first one, Ramadan, the kafarat, and the nuzur. And why we talk about these 3 types? Because it's obligatory. There is restrictions on these things that it's not restricted on others. So for example, we're going to talk about intention, the niyyah. The niyyah is required or better according to the Shafi'i madhab. So that means when we do obligatory fard fasting, you have to have intention before you fast. So when we start fasting at dawn, so before you start, you have to have intention that you are gonna fast. But in the sunnah, if you are making recommended fasting and you wake up and you forgot to do a niyyah, in the morning you can actually, and unless you eat or drink. If you didn't eat or drink anything, in the morning you say, I'm gonna fast today, and that's okay. In the sunnah only. That's why we say the obligatory fasting is one type, that you have to have a niyyah. And the niyyah, the intention, according to the three madahib, school of the Hanafiya and Hanbaliya and Malikiyya, it's a prerequisite, short. And for the Shafi'iyya, it's pillar, rukn. And what is the difference? The difference that the rukn usually is, both of them you have to do it. But the rukn is usually part of the ibadah. So the Shafi'iyya think that the intention is part of the fasting. Okay, so the first part or the first pillar, the first prerequisite is to have the intention before you fast. We have one school, the Ahnaf, the school of Abu Hanifa, and the rest of the schools. In Abu Hanifa, they allow to have one intention for the whole Ramadan. So before Ramadan starts, I will have the niyyah, I'm gonna fast all Ramadan as much as my ability. Is that enough in the other schools? No. In the Hanafiya, yes, it's enough. So in the rest of the madahib, every single night, if I ask you, why do you make suhoor? Why are you eating suhoor? Because I'm fasting. That's exactly the intention. So the intention is just to have something in your heart that you are gonna fast the next day. Why this is important, as you mentioned, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَمَا أُمِرُوا إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ. They have been ordered to worship Allah with sincerity. And there is no sincerity of ibadah except by intention. You cannot be sincere while you making ibadah by mistake. You understand what I mean? Like if you are passing by a pool and you flip down in the pool, and then in the Ahnaf they will tell you, you don't need niyyah. But the rest will say, like, there is no sincerity about making wudu here. If you made wudu by a mistake, there is no intention. There is no intention means there is no sincerity. That's the discussion. But my advice is to have both niyyah. So from now, we have the niyyah that we're gonna do whole Ramadan. So if I die before Ramadan, or I die in the middle of Ramadan, or something happens, I still get the same reward as I fasted. Because we get the reward according to the intention, not what we do usually. So the intention, the general intention is I am gonna fast the whole Ramadan. But every single night, try to remind yourself, tomorrow I am fasting. Just remind yourself, remind your kids, teach them how they have this sincerity. Why are we fasting for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How are we gonna fast? What's the reason behind that to acquire the taqwa? So this discussion is actually the intention, but it's part of every night. And the discussion has a lot of things, like, for example, I think I mentioned that before, when in Ahnaf says that when you have the intention before making Isha, you have one intention. You don't make intention or niyyah every single rak'ah. It's one intention for the whole prayer. And then the rest of the madahib responded to them and says, like, if you miss one unit in the like, for example, you pray the Isha 3 rak'at and you missed one, you have to repeat the whole Isha. But in Ramadan, if you missed one day, you repeat one day. So every single day in Ramadan is separate. It's a single ibadah, because if you miss one day, you repeat one day. You don't repeat the whole Ramadan after Ramadan. So that's the discussion. Both are correct. Both are trying to understand the text. But the whole point is, it's better to have both. So we have the general intention and we have the specific intention. And do that all the ibadah. Like before you go out of your house to come and pray Isha, or any prayer, have the general intention. I'm going to pray. So everything happens to you during the day, the time you are coming to the masjid, it's in your hasanat. Even if something happened and you didn't come to the masjid, you still have the hasanat. But then have the specific intention just before you say Allahu Akbar. Just remind yourself, what are you doing? I'm praying. What are you praying? I know I'm praying Isha. Okay, Allahu Akbar. So that's the specific intention. If we do that all the time, we will be our ibadah correct in all the madhahib. We don't need to say, is that correct in this madhab or not? So this is the first thing. The second pillar or the second thing in fasting is al-sawm itself. The fasting is, in the meaning, in Arabic, it means abstaining. It doesn't mean abstaining from what, but generally it means abstaining. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Maryam, فَقُولِ إِنِّي نَظَرْتُ لِلرَّحْمَنِ صَوْمًا فَلَنْ أُكَلِّمَ الْيَوْمَ إِنْسِيًّا. Allah ordered Maryam, when she sees her people, to say, I made obligatory upon myself to fast. So I'm not going to talk to anybody. So fasting here in this verse means abstaining from talking. So abstaining, this is the general meaning of fasting. But this is very important. Islam came with new terms. And this is very important. I repeatedly say that there is the general meaning of the word and there is a specific meaning as terminology. So, and I will tell you why. I never said why I usually say that, but I will tell you why. Because it's very important for people, especially in the West. The terminology for fasting, it means that abstaining from anything that breaks your or invalidates your fasting Ramadan. So you abstaining from food, from any food, any drink, or any intimacy during the day, from dawn to the sunset. Because this is the terminology. But the general word, it means just abstaining. The same for salah. The general meaning of salah, it can mean blessings, it can mean supplication, dua, everything. Salah is in the word itself is a very general meaning. But when you come to the salah as Muslim, here you have the start with takbir and the end of the salam and has movements and have saying. So when you go in the Surah Al-Ahzab, and that's why reason I always say that, إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَمَلَائِكَتَهُ يُصَلُّونَ عَلَى النَّبِيِّ. I met many Christians say that. They say, oh, you say that your God prayed. Who is praying for? That means your God praying to somebody else. Okay. Yusallun, that's what you think. It's the same terminology as the prayer. The prayer here, or praying, is not the term, is the general meaning. And that's why the ulama, the scholar, when they talk about it, how the salah from Allah is the mercy. The salah from Allah is the blessing. The salah from us is dua, to pray to Allah to have mercy upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when you talk about these people, they try to play because we sometimes don't understand the terminology. So there is a general word for salah that means blessings, that means mercy, that means prayer, that means a lot of things. This is the general meaning in Arabic language. But there is a specific meaning, the terminology, that prayer that we do. And Allah doesn't do the prayer what we do, subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what the meaning here in the ayah is general meaning. When you say as-salatu was-salamu ala rasulillah, do you do the prayer? No. You just making dua, because we are not equal that we send the peace and blessing upon the Prophet. So we ask Allah to send His peace and blessing upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Did you understand this? Because this is very specific, and I heard it from many people, especially Christians. So they try to convey to you that we have Trinity and stuff. So it's very, very careful to know what's the difference between the general meaning and the specific meaning or terminology. So the terminology for fasting, it's abstaining from anything that invalidates your siyam, your fasting, like eating and drinking and intimacy, from dawn to the sunset, and with the requirements that we said with intention. So that's the terminology. When we go, so you don't need except do two things: intention, abstaining from what invalidates your siyam. This is what actually has the whole discussion. What invalidates my siyam? And this is the whole discussion that we usually think about most of the time. And the discussion is not about food or drink or intimacy. It's more about, is taking a shot will be invalidating my salah? Is the spray that I take because it's medicine is invalidate my salah? This is the surgery? If I did the surgery, is the surgery gonna be validated? This is what we are discussing most of the time. And to understand why the scholars disagree about this and how to understand the analogy, we should know how schools understood the text. The text doesn't speak about anything except these three things: food, drink, and intimacy. That's it. So how the scholars understood it? In the Hanafi school, they understood it as Allah abstaining us from the desire of food, the desire of drinking water or any juice or anything that has a desire. So they here focused, as in the Hanafi school, about is it food, is it a real drink or not. So in the Hanafi school, the medicine itself doesn't invalidate your fasting. And anything is not considered as food. Like for example, they even say that in the books. Like if somebody got some salt and eat it, because salt is not food. Oh, don't do that, please. Don't eat salt. You're gonna be screaming the whole day. But like I'm just explaining why they say that. Like somebody has a rock. Usually we have a hadith from the Sahaba that they had some rocks in their mouth, so they have the saliva going, and they don't eat it. They don't. So they just put it in their mouth just to have a saliva. So the Ahnaf, for them, this is not food. So why they think that way? Because the analogy, as you remember the series I made, one of the tashri'ah, that you go to the Sharia, you go to the Quran, you go to the Sunnah, and you didn't find anything in the Quran or the Sunnah or the Ijma', then you go to the Qiyas. So they came to the Qiyas because there is nothing here very specific except what I said. The eating, drinking, and intimacy. So they said, okay, in the Hanafi school, the analogy here that anything that is desirable, that's actually will be invalidating your siyam. So anything that consider food, anything that consider drink or water, something that people desire. So when you go to them and tell them, hey, I took a shot because of the insulin, for example. So anything that is not considered feeding the body is okay in the Hanafi school. So if I go and ask a doctor, one of the doctors told me, like, we have fluid, goes to, like, when somebody is fainting and we put some fluid. And I said, fluid considered to be water and feeding the body? Yes. So that's it. Well, I'm gonna be invalidating the fasting in the Hanafi school, not in the other schools, because it feeds the body. You can live with that. Yes, you can live. That's how they survive in the hospital. You can survive with the fluid. It can survive you because you cannot eat or drink for a while. So that's considered be feeding the body. So how I understand that from the analogy of the Hanafi school. In the other school, it's more about this. Anything goes inside the jawf, the part that inside your stomach. So as soon you swallow something or goes inside, it doesn't matter if it's food or not. So you understand what I mean? In Shafi'i and Maliki and Hanbali, the whole point is about ما دخل إلى الجوف, anything that goes inside. So if you prove that something, even a stone, went inside your throat, that means invalidate your salah, your fasting. So in the Hanafi school, it's more about feeding the body. So anything is not feeding the body, it's not, you cannot survive on it, like injection, like spray, like this will not, it's medicine. So it's not gonna be invalidate your prayer according to the Hanafi school. In the Shafi'i school especially, they say it has to go inside your jawf, your inside, with manfadh maftuh, with an opening that is actually opened intentionally by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the nose, the ears, the mouth, and the bottom, front and the back. So these are the openings. So if somebody has an opening for Azakumullah, if they have a surgery and they have a bag and to poop in and something gets inside, it's not, as soon as it's not an opening, a natural opening. So for them, it doesn't matter. It has to be a natural opening in the body. So if a fluid comes from the bottom, the fluid comes from the bottom, this is actually invalidate the siyam. according to this majority of the scholars, that they think anything goes to your stomach. So that's why we need to be careful. So anything, any medicine that you're not gonna take from your mouth, your nose, your ears, or the bottom, that's not gonna invalidate your fasting at all. The injection, whatever it is, even if it's feeding the body, it's not. It doesn't matter according to the majority of the school, because their concern is not about feeding the body or not. The whole concern is to go to your stomach through an opening. So this is the discussion that is actually new. All these things were not here for like almost like 100 years or something, or a little bit more. So that's why the whole school is starting to see how the analogy inside the school to measure if this thing is gonna be invalidating or not. So for example, the spray in the Hanbali school, most of the schools, they talk about smelling is not invalidating your fasting. If I am cooking, I'm still smelling food, and the smell comes, like you definitely know that means that something can go inside your body, your stomach. But they say any smoke is not considered to invalidate. So the spray, according to the Hanbali school, if there is nothing goes to your throat, they say okay, it's not something that goes inside your throat. But if you go in other schools, they will tell you as soon as there is some drops, that invalidates your siyam. So according to what you think, what's the situation? So that's why we need to be a little bit careful when it comes to the new things. But other than that, in the normal fasting, we are abstaining from any kind of things to go inside our stomach. And if you are making rinsing the mouth, madmada, don't make it a lot. Like, don't exaggerate with making madmada during the Ramadan, because if anything that goes inside by a mistake inside your throat, it's gonna invalidate your siyam. The last thing before I take questions, the throwing up. Throwing up, according to the majority of the schools, if you intentionally put your hand inside your throat to throw up, that invalidates the siyam. But if it's naturally happened, you are okay. And making hijama, the hijama is when the cupping. So the hijama actually, according to only the Hanbali school, is invalidating the siyam, because there is hadith. But the majority of the schools, they understand this hadith as it was meant for backbiting. So because the Prophet ﷺ was talking about the backbiting, that the people who were doing hijama, they were backbiting somebody, so the ajr, the reward of the siyam, vanished because of that. So, for example, why hijama is important? Because if somebody is going to a surgery, if you're going to a surgery, that's like blood is coming from out of you, and while you are awake, because being conscious is important in the ibadah. So if you are not conscious, if somebody fainted in any part of the day, or there is something that invalidates the siyam during the day, so that will break the fast. So being fainted, being unconscious, being insane, or for women, if they had the menstruation period or they delivered during the day, that day is invalidated and they have to repeat it after Ramadan, inshallah. I don't want to go more details, but if you have questions, I am open for any question that I know.
Ice?
Any eye drops is not invalidating your siyam, even if you felt the taste, according to the majority of the schools. In the Shafi'i school, they don't consider eyes as a natural opening. And they said the Prophet ﷺ used to put the kuhl, mikhala, during fasting, and it's usually you feel the taste sometimes when you do the kuhl. So they have this, and also in the Hanafi school, this is not considered as food or drink.
So when the lady cook at home, they taste the
No tasting. I know if you are not swallowing, that you still, your siyam is valid, but please don't take, like, it's makruh, it's some disliked to taste the food while you are. But I know some ladies are very anxious if the food is gonna be bad or what happened. And so this is I understand that. So if you really have to do that, just with the tip of the tongue and then you spit out, so you made make sure that there is nothing will go inside. Your siyam is valid according to the whole schools, but it's disrecommended, like disliked. Well, yeah. Yes, brother.
Yes, I had the same question about eye drops and ear drops.
Eardrops is invalidating the siyam according to the majority of the schools, Shafi'i and Maliki and Hanbali, not in the Hanafi school, but in the eye drops not. So
It's not feeding.
I'm sorry.
We're not feeding anything.
Yes. So according, if you are practicing Hanafi school, it's okay. I'm just explaining because we are not coming from the same place, not from the same school. But I understand that this is not drink or food, and usually it's not gonna go in your throat. Sometimes it does happen, but the whole problem in the Shafi'i school is about if it's gonna go inside or not through a natural opening. So ears for them and nose and mouth are natural opening. So anything goes inside them, it's naturally will go to your stomach, which means that invalidates not the eyes though. But according to the, as you mentioned in the Hanafi school, if you felt or not, it's not food, it's not drink, it's medicine. It's not something desirable to feed in the body.
So the intro that it does go to the throat, same. So
I'm sorry?
Nose and pharynx, correct?
Yes.
So when we teach or show them, so nose goes to the throat.
Yes.
Teardrops can also go
Yes.
to the throat, correct?
Yes.
So if there's an eye drop, some of it might go to the throat. So
Yes.
as long as you don't swallow it, it's okay. That's what you're saying.
The point is when, to explain it more, why the eyes are not a natural opening in Shafi'i school, for example. Because they speak about an opening that usually somebody was treating the body at the time. They have natural opening, so the eyes for them, and because of the Prophet ﷺ used to say kind of like the mascara or something, and it sometimes you feel the taste. So that's actually why the Shafi'i school, they don't consider the eyes as an opening, a natural opening. So anything in your eyes, it doesn't matter for them. Yes, please.
They understand it as absorption, like something being absorbed is not in the fast because, like, if you're outside in the rain, for example, your body absorbs the water, it's not breaking the fast, right?
Absorbing from what? Or like your mouth or your nose or?
Yes, I'm saying like
A little bit.
Yeah.
your skin naturally.
Oh
absorbs.
no, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So same thing with the eye drops.
Yes.
Your body absorbs it, but you're
Exactly,
not just
exactly. So I like this, the absorb, like if your body, for example, you had the cream, your body absorbed the cream and still inside your body, but it's not a natural opening. So according to the whole school, that nobody will tell you that Siyam is invalid. Jazakumullah khair. Thank you so much for this explaining.
And anything about bleeding, like if you bleed a lot?
I'm sorry, the bleeding?
If you bleed a lot and like...
That's in the Hanafi school, if you bleed a lot or a little bit. But most of the majority, they don't consider bleeding, except the Hanbali school. The bleeding is not invalidating your fasting. So if somebody was caught and they had some blood or something, it's okay for them. They are okay to fast, unless they fainted or they are unconscious. Being unconscious, that means breaks your intention. Because you can have an intention while you are not here, or insane. Somebody went insane for a few hours or something like that. So that breaks the intention, which is part or required for fasting. That's why all the school says if somebody felt unconscious, if you went like they put you to sleep to have a surgery, just make another day. Don't be bothered. Don't feel like ashamed not to fast this day, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants the easiness for us, and Allah is the one who asked us to bring the fast while you are in illness, while you are traveling. So it's easy and you can compensate it after Ramadan, inshallah. Any other questions? Okay, there are many things for the recommended. So being in the dhikr all Ramadan and reading Quran and making Taraweeh and all of these are the recommended things. So we just read about what's recommended in Ramadan for sure, but just we try to focus on what invalidate and disinvalidate for sure. We didn't go in details with some of the intimacy stuff, but inshallah if anybody has a question we can talk about it. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم.